Man, look at all these people. I love it.
Hello, hello, guys. I'd like to start off with saying my name is Ashley Bryant. I'm 33 years old. I'm a mother of three, a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I am a person in long term recovery from the disease of addiction, and I struggle still with anxiety, depression, and low self esteem issues.
Y'all know me. I don't have to. Hello, my name is Danny Bryant. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I still suffer from depression, anxiety, some anger issues. Um, in the past, I dealt with drugs and alcohol. I'm in recovery because I want to be in recovery. I'm here because I want to be here, right? Take it away, baby.
All right. I grew up in Augusta, Kentucky, to a single mother that did her best to raise my older brother Thomas and myself, who I'd also like to mention my brother Thomas just celebrated a year sober.
Woo!
My biological father was always in and out of prisons and jails and made it clear at a young age to us that drugs were of more importance. At least that is how I saw it as a child, not having experienced addiction myself yet. I had a hard time understanding much of what he did and how to process it, except to bury those feelings in emotional trauma. That seemed to be something I always did. Bury bad or hard emotions I saw as a child will always stay with me. My childhood was a typical childhood for the most part, until my innocence was stolen by a family member when I was just 5 years old. The abuse continued until I was old enough to say no. I had never told a soul about this abuse until a couple years ago.
I was born in northern Kentucky, and I feel blessed that I had the childhood I had when I hear others tell their stories. I had to endure no abuse of any kind. Growing up, I had a very hard-working father who on occasion would take the time to take us camping, arrowhead hunting, and a couple small vacations. We were never very close, as he was just a father who wasn't capable of sharing his feelings. It wasn't until I dove deeper into my recovery that I started to realize the impact of having an emotionally unavailable father. It wasn't his fault. I don't like to sit there and pass blame. It was the generation he grew up in, but nonetheless, he was a very hard worker and a great provider. My mother, on the other hand, she was the best. She worked hard and loved even harder. She was my best friend and taught me life's most valuable lessons: how to go through life giving what you want to be given back, right from wrong, respect, love, gratefulness, and self worth. She was the greatest. I had an older brother I wasn't very close with. He was 7 years older than me. He is now retired from the Air Force and doing great. I also had a sister who was 3 years younger than me, who seemed to always be around whether I wanted her to or not. Hold on. Hold up. I had a normal childhood with hardworking parents and loving grandparents. Me and my sister attended church with my grandma and grandpa and even went to a few vacation Bible schools.
I struggled from a young age with never quite knowing who I was or what I was doing in life, and I never knew my purpose. I never felt good enough until I met someone that made me feel the love and protection I always longed for, my husband, Danny. Married young at 17, we had our first child, Hunter, soon after. Hunter was 6 months old when we had started doing pills and partying more. We had become addicted before we knew it. In 2012, we had our second child, Hudson. After 2 short months with us, Hudson passed away due to SIDS. It was that day that I started hating God, and I would even go as far as to say not believing in Him, because I didn't see how any kind of God could take an infant away. And I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that they made caskets that little. It was that day that I laid my son into the ground that I started to lose my mind and my addiction and life spiraled out of control. We had two more children in the years of 2014 and 16, Hadley and Hayden, all while battling my silent and secret addiction and mental illnesses and my overwhelming grief from the loss of our son. All I could manage was to just go through the next years of my life, numb from the pills, mental illness, and grief.
As she said, we kicked off our marriage with shared pill addiction. At this point, I was what you call a social drinker. I had the ability to put it down, go days or weeks without it. After tragedy struck, instead of properly grieving over the loss of our son, I immediately stuffed my hurt, my feelings down, tried to be tough for my wife and son, went straight back to work. Big mistake. Stricken with anger, confusion, depression, and hate, I immediately blamed God and used this situation as an excuse to lose it. I lost my faith. I lost my ability to be responsible. I lost my ability to put down the alcohol when I wanted to. Began a relationship with a mistress that would nearly cost me everything. At first, I would hide my mistress from my family and coworkers, ashamed and trying to believe I didn't have a problem. Before long, I was hiding my mistress under the car seats, in the linen closets, under the bed, in the toy box, anywhere I didn't think my wife would find a pint of whiskey. This grew stronger and stronger until it was just accepted by the whole family that I drank from light to dark, work or no work, and that was that.
In 2016, our marriage fell apart due to the fact that both of us had changed after Hudson had passed away, and we could no longer love each other correctly because we were stricken with grief and both sick with addictions. After our marriage failed, I began to be addicted to pain itself and not only drugs. I had lost the one person I wanted to spend my life with, and I began grieving not only for the loss of our son, but for the loss of our marriage. It was a constant battle within myself to want to be happy, but to be so drawn to the pain at the same time. And I didn't know how to fix this, and I didn't know how to ask for help, and I certainly did not have any sort of spirituality or faith in my life at this point. I was just merely existing. I had become the sole caregiver and provider for our 3 children. I was even more angry at God at this point, and I was scared to death. How could I care for these 3 children alone when I was secretly battling a demon within myself?
So there I was, a full blown alcoholic with 3 kids, a failed marriage due to my drinking. While I was never physically abusive to my family, the emotional absence and anger I displayed was more than enough for her to call it quits. Just like the loss of our son, I used this as an excuse to completely lose it again. But this time it went so much farther. I dove into addiction to not only alcohol, but as well as meth and women, which then led to heroin and a life of crime, manipulation, depression, and despair. I lost sight of what mattered and missed too many precious days with my family to count. During this time, I lost my best friend, my mother, to cancer, and then my sister to the same addiction I faced. She was only 33 years old. Yet again, it caused more carelessness on my part.
In 2017, I had entered into an abusive and narcissistic relationship that was fueled with methamphetamine and chaos. I was addicted to the pain, so that the relationship filled that need for it, and at that point in my life, pain was the only thing that made me feel alive. I'd forgotten how to even be happy or what happy was. In 2020, when COVID hit and everyone was quarantined, that was when my addiction took the worst downward spiral that I could have ever imagined possible. I became someone that I hated. I couldn't look myself in the mirror, and I had no idea who I was anymore. I still had these 3 children to take care of, and I was failing. In August of 2020, the state of Kentucky took our 3 children and placed them into foster care. When they walked them out the door that night, I stood there in the doorway for hours, just staring into nothing. Any sanity I had left was gone. It's safe to say something in me had snapped. I felt all the good that was in me that could have been left, and it sank away into a dark hole. It was that constant battle within my mind daily, saying, "Ashley, what are you doing? Your kids need you." Then my addiction would fire back and tell me, "You have nothing to worry about. The kids are gone. You can do what you want." The only time that I spoke to God in those days was when I was begging him to kill me. I had no idea what to do, where to go, or how to ask for help, or to even merely admit I had a problem. The pain, agony, anguish, and addiction had consumed me completely. It wasn't until I became homeless and living in a car at the truck stop, never eating, pushed away from my family and friends, and doing unspeakable things just to get high, that I realized that I may have a problem. I attempted my first treatment in September of 2020, only to walk out 10 days in, to continue with my addiction. The demon inside my head still had a stronghold. It wasn't until January of 2021 when the inevitable happened. I'd overdosed, not knowing what had happened until I woke up to the person that was with me, sitting on top of me in the car, smacking me in the face and screaming my name. That I had realized something had to change, or that begging that I had done to God to die would surely come true. I realized maybe I didn't want to die, that maybe I was just sick, very sick. And then I finally admitted to myself that I was an addict, and I was not and had not been mentally stable for a very long time, and I needed help.
After years of coming in and out of my kids' lives, homeless, strung out, stealing my daily intake of liquor, over 20 mugshots, I was tired. I performed suicide by overdose 3 times. All 3 times, by God's grace, someone came to my rescue and brought me back. Unfortunately, one of those times it had to be my wife to see me like that. This was not me. This was not how I was raised, not what I believed in. Through this period of time, state had taken our children, as she said. So when I was released from jail in 2020, the DOC decided I might need rehab. But of course, after a couple short months, I left, on the run again, hopeless and getting worse than ever. After a couple months of this, I decided I had to do something. I couldn't see my kids, so I found a cop, told him of my parole warrants, and asked him to take me to jail. He obliged. It was great. It was hilarious. He asked me to tell you the story sometime. I was done. I entered jail, went through the sickness again, and decided to bring myself back to my kids one way or another. I enrolled in in the SAP program, where someone I didn't even know left me a Bible. I read those red letter words in this book that I had shunned in my life spoke so loudly to me. It was time to open the door that God had been standing behind since 2012. And there he was, arms wide open, with endless amounts of grace.
I entered my second treatment 4 days after I had overdosed on January 30th of 2021. After leaving treatment, even though I was physically better, no longer sick, and had the drugs in my system, and my brain was not clouded, I still felt sick. I was going through the battle of getting my children home with countless court dates, drug screens, therapy, mental assessments, and visits with my kids. It was all so mentally draining, and I still didn't have a sure footing in my recovery and felt like something was missing. It wasn't until I seen an ad on Facebook for Redeemed Outreach. So I went and checked it out, and I met Miss Pastor Paula Wilson. I sat there and listened to their worship uncomfortably, but not uncomfortable because of where I was, but I was sitting there and I was feeling these feelings of needing God that I had never felt before. I needed him. I felt drawn to the altar. That day I gave myself and my burdens to God. I've worked on my faith since then and washed away my sins when I was baptized in June of 2021. I started attending church.
Yeah.
I started attending church here at Cross Point, and I attend Celebrate Recovery meetings weekly. And I've come to realize that God never left me in those dark days. I was the one that had left him. He was there for me the entire time. Once I had given my life to God and I let go of the chains that were holding me back, everything started becoming much clearer. And I finally started to heal and learn who I was. And the things that I had prayed for, God started showing me a way to receive them.
I was baptized November 9th, 2021. And not long, to be honest, that date is more important to me than my sobriety date. And not long after that, me and my wife decided to give it a go again. Not a day went by I didn't miss my family, worry about my wife and kids, and hate myself for the time I had missed. It was that self-hatred that kept me trapped. The hardest thing in my recovery was the ability to forgive myself. But it had to be done. I remember some precious advice given to me by my amazing wife, Ashley. She said, "You have to be selfish right now, Danny." I can hear her saying it on the jail phone right now. "You got to think about Danny. You got to worry about Danny." I'm like, "You're crazy. That's backwards. What do you mean?" She was right. She was absolutely right. She said, "Focus on yourself, and the rest will fix itself." Once I did and allowed God to take over, things fell right into place for me. Not like immediately, but they started to. Our SAP administrator saw fit to make me SAP coordinator. Yeah, me, the guy who was 6 months before was the homeless junkie on the streets. But with God's help, I was able to embrace the role of helping others in the beginning of their journey. After thoroughly working my 12 steps, I graduated SAP and was released from jail in June of 2022.
I am now 32 months sober.
Woo! Yeah.
I regained full custody of our children back in January of 2022.
Yeah.
I am finally someone that my family and friends can depend on and trust again. And if God's timing isn't something you've encountered, well, I sure have. Because in his timing, he also reintroduced my now sober husband back into our lives. I prayed to God every day for this, to have our family back together, and for him to be free of addiction as I was. I never gave up hope on him. And now together, we teach our children about how gracious of a God we have, and he is a God of redemption and love. God restored our family, and we give all grace to him. I now work at Talbert House as an addiction peer recovery coach, and I get to help others through the beginning of their recovery, and I get to see the light come back into their eyes. I finished my very first step study at Celebrate Recovery with some of the most amazing ladies, my sisters in Christ. I have some of the most amazing forever family at CR, and I am thankful for them each day. God placed me right where I'm supposed to be. I know what it's like to be ran by that instinct inside you that sticks to the lie. I know what it's like to relive all the things that you've done till you wished you would die. I know what it's like when you're waking up anxious and sick, and the logical thing is that fix. But I also know what it feels like to wake up excited for life, when you make that decision and you give all that's in you and you fight for your life. So who I am today is a soldier in God's army. To help those still stuck in the fires, I'm a healing woman and I know what happiness is. I know what it is to finally smile a real smile. And I know what it is to be a mother, wife, friend, sister, and daughter again, and most importantly, a child of God. Recovery has given me a life that I no longer want to run from, and a life that I'm proud of.
You got me all emotional. I forgot where I was at. If I was up here by myself, I would have done it. All right. Now I have a great job, building incredible relationships with my kids and building on the marriage me and my wife both always wanted but couldn't have, trapped under the addictions. I never let a chance to tell my wife and kids how much I love you. I love you.
Love you.
Because I remember
He loves me.
I remember not being able to tell them at all. Hearing them scream daddy.
A lot.
Hearing them scream daddy when I walked through the front door is a sound I craved for far too long. I laying my head next to this woman's every night and kissing her goodbye before I go to work is things that I, at times, never thought I'd do again. I'm blessed they can tell me they love me in person instead of visiting my headstone, asking why. God and my hard work through recovery have given me my family back and me back to myself. God's grace is real, it is ever present, and I like to think my gratitude is shown in my day-to-day actions. Through Celebrate Recovery, I've completed a step study with these awesome brothers and look forward to leading a step study soon. And these crazy people made me leader, which I don't know what they were doing, but I embrace my leadership role and love every minute of it. I scratched that out so I keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Toe shield, you know. My sobriety date is May 9th of 2021. And every minute of every one of those days has been a struggle. But it's a struggle worth every minute, and a struggle I will continue for the rest of my life. Realizing I am worth it, my family is worth it, and God will walk every step with me gives me what I need to fight this fight. I have good days and bad, all of us do. I still get sad, I still get angry. I don't always practice my last 3 steps as I should, and I'm not the best with words, obviously. Y'all know that. But I refuse to give up on what I've gained. I had the things people pray for and the family kids dream of. It took a lot of work and always will, but as for me and my family, we will worship the Lord. Because without him, none of this would be possible. You going to read yours first, or you want me to do the thing? You got this?
I got this. People have said to us how lucky we are to have our family back together, for our marriage to be okay after all we've been through. But I say it isn't luck at all, because just like our recoveries, we work every day at our marriage. We give each other honesty, respect, patience, and endless grace just as God gives us. And it's not always easy, but our love and respect for one another and our openness makes the hard days not so hard. Again, just like our recoveries, we are present every day and fight every day to never give this up. We make this work because the past no longer holds us prisoner. We trust the next chapters because we know our author. In God's purpose, timing, details, and plans, we trust in Him because in all of this, all of our hurts, habits, and hang-ups, we can now give our children the healed and healing versions of ourselves. And we can now give each other in our marriage the healed and healing versions of ourselves. And it's all thanks to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And His plans for us were bigger than those habits, hurts, and hang-ups. We trusted Him and the process to get where we are today. I'm finally right where I'm supposed to be. I'm finally home. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future."
So, y'all have heard most of our story. It's time for y'all to see the benefits and what we have gained from our recoveries. Leah? She got earbuds in, or
Hello, my name is Hunter Bryant. I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight to share. I just wanted to say how proud I am of my parents for putting in the work to bring themselves back from the life that almost killed them. Through God and CR, they have proven to me and my brother and sister that we mean more than that life did. I'm so proud of them and grateful to everyone at CR. I am the son of recovering drug addicts, and they have taught me that no matter how far gone someone might get, there's always a way out through God. Thank you, and have a good evening.
that's my boy. He wasn't with us a couple years ago, y'all. He is now. Um, I see you too, Kevin. I see you over there. You can't hide it. You turn one of these lights on him. Ashley wanted me to do this little closing thing, and I usually do stuff better if I don't have to read it, so who knows what's going to come out of my mouth, but here we go. Toe shield type stuff. I spend every day of my life now, and hopefully always will, sober, completely sober. Tried to drink a Red Bull a few days ago. It rocked my brain. I couldn't do it. I quit those about a month ago. But when I get up in the mornings, I don't feel like crap. I'm tired, but it's a good tired. I'm not strung out. I got a little meat on me. Thank you, thank you. I had to be Thomas or Timmy. But I catch myself wondering all the time why I'm happy. When I was in addiction, I was like, well, there's no way I can be happy unless I'm high or drunk. There's no way that I can go through a day without 3/5 of vodka or a gram of heroin or who knows how much meth. There's no way I could do it. And I go to work and I sit there in the parking lot before I go in and I'm like, I have no problem going in here. I'm in a good mood. What is this about? This is weird. It still feels weird. I'm almost 30 months sober, and it still feels weird. But I thank you. It's just the past about 6 months I've started to realize what it is, what feeds my fire, what fuels my flame, and it's this place. It is Celebrate Recovery. I told Jeremiah earlier, I think I would probably still be sober this amount of time. I don't know, maybe not, but I would think I would be a bitter, angry, depressed, just ugly sober. You know what I'm saying? Dry drunk, yeah. Thank you. But I'm not. I'm happy. I play with my kids. I don't go hide in the bedroom. I don't have to hide. Like a few years ago, I'd be back here behind her. Like, no, ain't no way, y'all. I ain't talking to nobody. But it's Celebrate Recovery. It's each and every one of you. And if you don't think I'm talking about you, I'm talking about you and you and you in that seat back there and you. Every one of these smiling faces. You, Timmy. I see you over there, buddy. Every one of these faces is what we all need. Everybody. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, but I've got all those symptoms you saw in that video earlier, I've got them. I got PTSD, I've got depression, I've got all these things, and we all need the same type of love. We all need support. We are losing people every day to suicides, overdoses, medical issues, depression, whatever the case may be. People are killing their whole families because they're scared to talk about things that we all talk about every day. So, in closing, I'm going to leave you all with a challenge. I want you to accept this challenge and I want you to follow through with it. Everybody in here knows somebody who's not happy with their life right now, in whatever way that looks. Everybody's way is different. I challenge you to text them, maybe call them, whatever you want to do. Don't say, hey, cheer up. Don't say, hey, quit sticking that needle in your arm. Don't say, hey, put that bottle down. Don't go shatter their bottles, all that crap. Just say, hey, I love you. Thinking about you. Wondering about you. That's it. That's it. When I was in the depths of my addiction, there's very few people other than drug dealers that would respond to my messages. She would. She would text me out of the blue. I don't know how she'd find me.
I'm
Y'all,
good.
I was in some trap house in the middle of nowhere, and this woman's like, does anybody know Ashley Bryant? And I'm like, God, she didn't know. She
I
didn't
had
know.
no fear.
She didn't know any of these people. She'd send them a friend request. It was awesome. But just however it looks, reach out to somebody. Not just drug addicts and alcoholics, people with depression, people with all kinds of issues. Even if it's just somebody you want to talk to, you ain't talked to in a little while. I challenge you to do that. That is the story of the Bryants. You got anything else? No? Toe Shield. Thank you, guys.